Thank you very much for making the time to be with us. See, we've got nearly 30 of you online, and thank you for those who've already joined in on the chat. So let's have a look and see that you're in the right place. I'm talking to you about PSHE in the new OFSTED framework. What have recent inspections told us? As I said, I did a webinar back in the autumn term, what we were expecting the inspection process to look like from the paperwork. But now we have actually had some inspections and we know what Ofsted are saying about PSHE. So that's what this evening is all about. Just a tiny bit about me. My name's Simon White and I'm an Associate Leadership Consultant for Jigsaw Education Group. I was a primary head teacher for 23 years before I retired just over 3 years ago. In that role, I was a school improvement partner, SACRE chair, and now I, in my semi-retirement, am chair of governors in a small Church of England first school in Somerset. And I have been through an inspection with them this term. 13th of January, we were inspected under the new framework. So what I'm telling you is not just a paper exercise, it's my experience of what happened for me in that inspection. So what are we going to be covering in the next few minutes? I'm going to give you a brief overview of the new framework, and I will keep that brief because I'm sure many of you know that already. I'm going to look at what's happened since November 25. I'm going to look at the current picture in numbers, the current picture in words, and that's probably the most interesting bit for you, and look at some other considerations and most importantly, the implications for your school. So I'm sure you will all be fully aware by now that the evaluation areas in the new framework are these: safeguarding, inclusion, curriculum and teaching, achievement, attendance and behaviour, personal development and well-being, and early years or sixth form is all directly taken from the Ofsted documents that are all available to you online. There is an emphasis on leadership as a driver of sustained improvement in schools. There is definitely an emphasis on inclusion across everything you do. It's about building an accurate and typical view of the quality of the school. And inspectors are coming into your school to look at how well pupils achieve, and that is both academically and personally, which is great in terms of the territory we're talking about tonight. They're looking to see that children belong, and I've italicized and underlined and bold the word feel. They are looking to see that the children feel that they belong to and are valued as part of the school community, so that they attend, behave and contribute positively to what the school offers. So the pupil's voice is really important in all of this, and their feelings and their perception of what you are doing for them. And overall, Ofsted are looking for thriving children, benefiting from the right systems, the right processes, levels of oversight, so that they're kept safe, first of all, and they're able to flourish, whatever their background or individual needs. The new Ofsted 25 inspection framework introduces a more focused and structured approach to evaluating PSHE or PSHRE, if you're adding relationships education in there as well. And it's now embedded within the broader term of personal development and well-being, and that has become an evaluation area. So let's have a little bit of a look at the detail here. So the evaluation area is focused on the personal development and well-being of pupils, and this evaluation area considers the following things: whether leaders establish a suitable and coherent programme of personal development through both the curriculum and the wider opportunities and experiences they provide for pupils. So it's not just about the PSHE programme, It is about that, but it's not just about that. It's about those wider opportunities that are provided in your school. Whether the school supports pupils to develop the knowledge and skills they need for participation and success in later life. So are you clear on what those skills are? Do you know how you're progressing them in your school? Whether the school promotes pupils' wider development, character and well-being, ensuring they receive the care and support to achieve and thrive in school and beyond. And that very much is looking at those intervention programs and the ways of supporting pupils with their wider development. And also the whole SMSC, spiritual, moral, social and cultural development activities that are seen across your school will be looked into. So Ofsted in the new framework are saying there are several factors which they would expect to see in a successful school. The first being whether leaders establish a suitable and coherent programme of personal development through both the curriculum and wider opportunities. Okay, we've already talked about that. Whether the school supports the pupils to develop those knowledge and skills they need for participation, whether the school promotes wider development in character and well-being, and SMSC across all the school's activities. Okay, you will be aware, I am sure, that there are no overall grades for schools anymore, and that the standards, the grading has changed. And Ofsted will come into your school expecting to see the expected standard. That is the place where they start the inspection. In all evaluation areas, they will come in looking for evidence that the school is at expected standard. If they find that, then that's fine, and they will look for evidence of strong standard. And if they find that, they will then look for evidence of exceptional. If they don't find the expected standard, they will look to see what needs attention. I see we've got a hand raised.
I was going to say we've got a hand raised by Kay.
Kay, are you able to unmute? No.
Okay, so you've did you have a question to ask, Kay?
Bex, I'll leave you to check in the chat for that. Okay, so with the expected standard, this is something that every report comments on all of these aspects of the work of the school. So the expected standard is that the school has a coherent and appropriate programme of personal development which extends across the taught curriculum and wider opportunities and experience, and that makes a positive difference to schools and enables them to pupils and enables them to develop spiritually, morally, socially and culturally. Then the personal development programme includes suitable and well-taught relationships and health education, or relationships, sex and health education, which develops people's knowledge. Just a note there that sex education is actually only mentioned explicitly at the strong standard, not at the expected standard. Pupils develop their understanding and respect for protected characteristics and fundamental British values and cultural diversity in modern Britain. So at the expected standard, the inspectors are looking to see that pupils are being taught appropriately about protected characteristics and fundamental British values. Pupils are to have a range of suitable opportunities to broaden their experiences and enable them to develop talents and interests. So that's areas such as arts, music and sport. The school needs to have a careers education strand where relevant, which prepares pupils for future education, employment and training. And in secondary terms, the school is making steady progress towards the Gatsby benchmarks. Effective pastoral support meets pupils' needs. They're confident in accessing it when they need it. And the personal development programme is an entitlement for every pupil, Leaders track participation and take steps to ensure that pupils, including disadvantaged pupils, those with SEND or those known or previously known to children's social care, or any other barriers to their learning or well-being, can participate appropriately, and reasonable adjustments or adaptations are made for them. Now, the thing that is different again with these standards against the last ones, these are all or nothing. So you cannot achieve the expected standard as a school unless the inspectors see evidence of all of these things taking place. If there's just one bullet point that is missing, then the area will require attention. So what has happened since November 2025? Again, you'll probably know this from the educational press, but in September to December, there were volunteer and urgent inspections. So there were pilot inspections from September to November, 115 of those, and those were unpublished. And from the 10th of November onwards, volunteer schools took part in the inspection process. So just as an aside, the reports that are now come back from those, and there are many, I think we can perhaps fairly safely extrapolate they are likely to be a little bit more positive than will be going forward. You're not likely to have volunteered for your school to be inspected unless you think you're going to do okay. That's a personal opinion, but I think it's reasonable to say that. From January 26 onwards, routine inspections begun, and we now only know how many inspections have taken place by counting the published reports, typically in the public domain around 8 weeks after the visit. And part of my role in Jigsaw is to keep an eye on that. So I have looked at every single report that has been published since the 1st of January. And what I'm telling you next is based on all of those reports. Now, clearly, working for Jigsaw Education Group, my focus has been on schools who use Jigsaw Education. And that's the vast majority of you on this call. And my statistics are based on those schools. So what is the current picture in numbers? As of the 4th of March, there had been 400 primary inspections and 161 secondary or all through inspections that have been published. Schools who use Jigsaw PSHE, 76 of those 400 are primary. 76 out of the 400 primary schools use Jigsaw, and 5 out of the 161 secondary schools. And clearly, the grade for personal development and well-being is a clear indicator on how well the school is doing in their PSHE. And I'm really pleased, and hopefully those of you who are Jigsaw subscribers will take a great deal of heart from this. 72 out of the 76 primary Jigsaw PSHE schools were at expected standard or better. So that's 95% of schools. And in fact, 28 of them, 38%, were at a strong standard or better. And one was at exceptional. And exceptional is now, it's not outstanding. It's not, it doesn't relate to the old outstanding. Exceptional is exceptional. There has been, as far as I can see from my monitoring, there has been one school that has been given exceptional for their personal development and well-being, and that is a Jigsaw school. Okay. You may just wonder, the 4 of the 76 who weren't at expected standard for personal development and well-being that were Jigsaw schools, all of those were not at expected standard for anything. They were all schools that got attention needed or more, or worse, maybe is the way to put it, for every aspect of their provision. So I am really aware that there's lots of small writing on this screen, but I just thought it would be very useful for us to look at that one school, which is Goldsmith Primary Academy, who are a Jigsaw school, who achieved exceptional. And I've pulled out, don't worry about the sort of white boxes, that is just exactly what Ofsted said about them, but I've pulled out in bold what was noted. So within that school, exceptional personal development program, which transforms character and aspirations, exceptional support, inclusion, respect, acceptance, character education, relationships education, children confidently explaining. They had an astute understanding of fundamental values. Ambassadors for tolerance and acceptance, risks and online safety were highly developed. They had an extensive enrichment offer. Deliberate leadership leads to high participation among disadvantaged, extensive careers education, character virtues woven through the curriculum, and leadership opportunities, particularly for the most disadvantaged. And their pastoral support, Ofsted felt, was second to none. Meticulous tracking of pupils' well-being, swift support, expert staff, embedded well-being programs targeting those in most need, remarkable emotional resilience. So that's a fabulous picture. Anybody would want that said about their school, wouldn't they? But let me just pick out what I think are the main things there. This new inspection framework has inclusion as a golden thread going through it. Ofsted are coming in and really focusing on what you are doing and how well you are doing for your disadvantaged pupils. And it's clear in this school is doing it really well. Okay, so that is what exceptional looks like. But exceptional can perhaps be a little bit daunting. It might be where we all want to be, but it's not where we're going to end up straight away. So what I did was I have, just so you know a little bit about my methodology here, I have put every single statement from the Jigsaw schools that were inspected who achieved strong standard into AI, and find out what was noted. So what are the key aspects of being strong standard for personal development and well-being? And what we find is that if we look at the arrows, first of all, personal development and care is as a core priority, the celebration of diversity, equality and inclusion, fundamental British values, safety, health and well-being, enrichment clubs and wider curriculum opportunities, strong pastoral care and support, careers education. So all of those things you can see are aspects which, in order for schools, not in order for schools to be a strong standard, that's not what this is telling us. Those who have achieved strong standard had those aspects very clearly demonstrated and reported on. Okay, so let's unpick that a little bit more. So personal development as a core priority, schools consistently place personal development at the center of their work, and this is for strong standard. Pupils are encouraged to become reflective, confident and resilient individuals, supported through structured programs that reinforce those qualities. And it is my personal opinion, as I say, we are talking Jigsaw schools here, that's why these schools were strong standard and expected standard, because that structured program is there. So it was really easy to demonstrate to the inspectors that you knew what you were talking about, you knew what you intended, you knew what children were getting in a spiral curriculum. And so, you know, that was very easily evidenced. The celebration of diversity, equality and inclusion. There was a strong emphasis on celebrating diversity, religious, linguistic, neurological. So all of those aspects of diversity, and teaching pupils to value difference, promote equality and fairness, and helping pupils to become respectful, compassionate citizens who embrace modern Britain's modern diversity. A clear emphasis on fundamental British values. Democracy, we all know what they are. So pupils using democratic voice in decision making and understanding British values deeply and applying them through the life of the school. Safety, health and well-being. an extensive focus in strong standard schools on online safety, healthy relationships, mental health, understanding risks in and outside of school, and schools adapting the PSHE and safeguarding content to local and national issues, ensuring that pupils stay safe and manage emotions and seek help where needed. And the whole enrichment offer as well within strong standard schools, described as a rich menu of clubs, trips, performances, sports, artistic experiences, leadership roles, seen as essential to character formation, confidence building, and exploring talents and interests. And equal access. Again, I can't emphasize this strong enough, and this is from my experience as a chair of governors, the equal access, including disadvantaged and SEN pupils, certainly at a strong standard and pretty strongly at an expected standard, if I'm not mixing my words there. Unless you're getting it right for all pupils, you're not getting it right in this new framework. So strong pastoral care and support system, supportive, targeted, impactful, able to show the story of some what's happened with some pupils in your school, tracking participation, removing barriers, providing tailored mentoring, counselling and emotional literacy programs. Careers education, raising aspirations, and this is even at primary. So robust careers education from as simple as early exposure to different jobs or aspirational programs for older pupils, employer visits, work experience, career taster days, all of those things were evident in strong standard schools. Leadership, citizenship and community contribution. Pupil leadership appears really frequently in these comments in the reports. Things like school counsellors, eco-warriors, digital leaders, librarians, reading rangers, all of those kind of things you have going on in your school. But clearly these schools talked about them, they showed them, they evidenced them, they talked about the impact. Okay. Cultural, spiritual, moral and social development, a curriculum rich in these things, visits to places of worship, learning about festivals, philosophy, clubs, drama, music, literature, pupils able to reflect on moral questions, fairness, ethics, rights and global issues. And then inclusion and equity of access, again, back to the same theme, isn't it? All pupils, including disadvantaged and SEN pupils, benefit equally from all of this, and schools track the offer. Okay. So if that all seems a bit exhausting for you, those are schools at strong standard. Let's have a look at the expected standard. And this, I'm sure you will all be able to, I'm sure there's many of you on this call that are already saying, yes, we're at strong standard. I get that completely. But expected standard is what's expected. And it's a tough ask, I have to say, but let's have a look and see. This has got to be your starting point. So when you are reviewing your school, are you ready for it being inspected for PSHE? Are these things true in your school? So the next couple of slides are about this expected standard. So what was noticed in expected standard schools? The arrows haven't changed much. Okay, so we'll quickly go through those and then the detail. So obviously the areas were personal development, well-being, British values and cultural understanding, diversity, inclusion and equality of opportunity, enrichment beyond the classroom, preparation for future life, safety and healthy lifestyles, and a positive school ethos. So just tick off what do you already think you are doing right in those areas to be at expected standard. Personal development and well-being, an emphasis on the importance of nurturing pupils' personal growth, well-being and character, achieved through a thoughtfully designed programme that encourages self-reflection, emotional regulation and positive relationships. That could be a strapline for Jigsaw PSHE, actually, couldn't it? So if you've got Jigsaw PSHE, you are there. A strong focus on teaching fundamental British values, such as democracy, rule of law, respect, tolerance. Pupils learn about various cultures and religions, promoting an inclusive and respectful school environment. So there is a tie-up there with your RE provision as well. but clearly Jigsaw PSHE provides all of that, and Jigsaw RE puts the icing on the cake. Diversity, inclusion, and equality of opportunity. It's again that access, so that all pupils are having access to a wide range of experiences and targeted support. Enrichment beyond the classroom, a commitment to providing it, experiences beyond academic learning, clubs, trips, residentials, etc. Preparation for future life, again, careers, preparing people for life beyond school, fostering skills like teamwork, aspiration, and community involvement. Safety and healthy lifestyles, a comprehensive personal, social health, and economic education, ensuring pupils understand safe relationships, online safety, and healthy living habits. And a positive school ethos, a calm, purposeful environment underpinned by kindness, respect, and high expectations that helps all pupils thrive and feel valued within the school community. So there we are, expected standard, okay? And hopefully you can just hear coming through within those statements. So we've gone the wrong way round in a way. We've gone from absolute brilliance and going down. But if we work back the other way, you can see the expected standard, fundamental expectations. It's planned, it's intentional. The vast majority of pupils are accessing it. There are clubs and activities. And then when we go to the strong standard, we see that we've got it as a central core of what's going on in the school, and an entitlement and tract, and all pupils benefit from it. So, those are what we see from strong standard and expected standard. Now, we can also learn from where it's gone wrong, in inverted commas. As I say, there were some schools, it's a very small sample for us because there were only 4 schools where attention was needed to personal development and well-being. And as I say, in all of those schools, attention was needed for every aspect of what the school was doing. But what was noted? So I'm going to be a bit quicker on this one. You will have the slides. You can look at it if you need to. But where attention was needed within personal development and well-being, there's good stuff going on, but it needs acknowledging there's much more to do, and a need for strategic evaluation and oversight is repeatedly emphasised. So it's happening, but perhaps not as well as it should. Fundamental British values and cultural diversity, where attention's needed, there are gaps in pupils' awareness of protected characteristics and cultural diversity. Perhaps an obvious statement. And it's not that, let me just say, it's about teaching children. It's not my experience that pupils at primary are being asked, do you know the protected characteristics? That doesn't appear to be how it's working. It is the outworking of an understanding of the school about protected characteristics, and so it's more likely to be about discrimination and those things. I haven't yet come across a primary school, where pupils were asked about the protected characteristics. I think they might be asked about British values. Okay. Needs a bit more work on that, and that's something we're doing behind the scenes to check that out. But that is the feeling I get from what I've read. Pupil leadership and pupil voice, pupils expressing a desire for more meaningful roles in the school, and current provision described as limited and inconsistent. Extracurricular enrichment activities, and this really focused on a lack of strategic oversight, lack of tracking. Some pupils, particularly those who are disadvantaged, not fully benefiting from the school's offer. Safety and healthy relationships, limited because the impact of recent curriculum changes has yet to be seen. So that's what we can learn from those who have done less well with attention needed. We still, as a society, is that the right way to put it? But certainly as a profession, need to shake down on what attention needed in a school really means. I've had it explained to me that it's a bit like an advisory on an MOT, that it's not, you're not heading to special measures and all of those kind of things, but your MOT has said, okay, this is going to be needed to be done before your next MOT is needed. So I think we've got to be quite careful, and this is a personal view, this is perhaps not a jigsaw view, but it's a personal view. Lots of schools are getting attention needed in some aspects of their work, and there are plenty of schools that get attention needed, expected standard and strong standard as a bit of a menu across all they're doing. Another attention needed. So two things: support for disadvantaged pupils. Um, Again, it's about that evaluation. The school does not consistently evaluate its impact on disadvantaged pupils. And transition and social skills, opportunities to develop social skills are uneven across the phases. Older pupils helping younger peers, but more consistent practice is needed. Okay. So, Bex, before we move on to the last few, is there any questions that fit in here, do you think, at the moment?
No
No
questions.
questions. Okay, good. We do use the chat to ask some questions because we're going to have plenty of time for questions at the end. So some reflections on other evaluation areas linked to PSHE. Again, if you look up the webinar that I did in the autumn term about preparation for the new OFSTED, I talked a lot there about the fact that, and it is a fact, PSHE is part of almost everything that Ofsted looks at. Okay, obviously behaviour and attendance is linked to your personal development curriculum. What we're finding with the reports that have been published, behaviour and attendance are linked together. Okay, and as I said to you several times, it's an all or nothing system. So there are a number of schools out there that have a needs attention judgment for behaviour and attendance because attendance is less than national average despite behaviour being excellent in the school. So that's just one to look out for. And I'm going to talk just very briefly in a minute about my experience in the school I'm in, and particularly behaviour and attendance and attainment were issues for us. So I'll come back to that in a minute. But sorry,
Simon, got a question here. Oh, sorry, I think this is from Sarah actually. Do we know if Ofsted are asking to speak to PSHE leads, or are questions on this going through SLT?
I am not aware of, because they're not deep dives, so you're not going to get a deep dive into PSHE. You're not going to get a deep dive into anything. So inspectors may talk to staff, but they won't particularly, in my experience, they won't particularly ask to speak to the PSHE lead. It is expected that those that they talk to will know the journey of the school and the story of the school. So they will, in my experience of, this is one inspection out of 500 or so that have happened, but my experience was it was mainly the SLT and the governors and the trust board who gave them that evidence. But good question. Attainment, again, there are difficult discussions for schools who are below national averages because the all or nothing nature of the attainment descriptors, would say that you're going to have a difficult conversation if your school is below average. Well, that's half of schools in the country having a difficult conversation. But again, I do have a little bit to say on that in a minute. Inclusion, I've already alluded to, is considered across all areas of focus. And the way I've put it is, if you're not doing it for your disadvantaged pupils, SEND, you are not doing it for everybody. So therefore, there are issues. Okay. Curriculum has a much smaller focus than in previous inspection frameworks, and the well-planned curriculum is actually taken as a given. So there are not any deep dives into the curriculum. It is looking at the impact of what the school does. Got a couple of things in the chat there that might be useful to bring in.
Perfect. I'll read them out for you,
Yeah,
Simon.
thank you.
From Lauren, we have Ofsted in January and no subject was asked to speak with them. It was just SLT. We had a staff panel, but nothing more. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Lauren. And Jane, I teach PSHE whole school. Will it fall to me to make sure everything is up to scratch? I'm also a PSHE lead.
It's a lot on your shoulders, but it's not falling to you completely. You need your SLT on board. This is all about, and this my next slide will perhaps evidence this to you a little bit. It's all about the story the school is telling, and that everybody in the school is telling the same story. So let's just have a quick look. Forgive me, I think it's going to be useful to you. That's why I've put it in. That you haven't tuned in to hear about me and my school, but I have been through the experience. My school is a small first school in Frome that has been through a rapid improvement journey. I joined as a governor 4 years ago when the school went into special measures, and the school was a 210 pupil school in special measures. And we have just got expected standard for everything. So that has just been an amazing journey. But we're an expected standard school with less than 50 pupils. So you can imagine the changes that we've been through. And if I was going to sum it up um, in terms of my experience as a chair of governors, speaking to the inspection team, the question that kept coming back and back. So as a school, you've been focusing on X. Why? Why have you been doing that? What's been achieved? And this is massively important. How do you know? So how do I, as chair of governors, know that improvement has happened? And interestingly, the call I was on, it was a joint call with me as chair of governors and the chair of the trust board. Okay. So we had, in terms of preparation, I'd not met the chair of the trust board, and that probably wouldn't be strange in a trust of 40 odd schools that you wouldn't have done so. So we had a Teams meeting on the day that we were told of the inspection, which included myself and the SLT of the school and the chair of the trust board, just so we could talk through the story of the school. What has actually happened? What's important? What has happened in the school? What have we focused on and why? So all of these things we were focused on, and we knew, if I move on to the next slide, we knew our areas of possible difficulty were attendance, because it's an issue in the school. We have got now a very high disadvantaged and Gypsy Roma population. The vast majority of the non-disadvantaged and the non-Gypsy Roma voted with their feet 4 years ago when the school went into special measures. So we were left with a very, very high proportion of disadvantaged pupils and Gypsy Roma pupils. And our attendance is below averages in all areas. Okay, so in the all or nothing nature of the new inspection framework, we should be intention needed, but we didn't. We had expected standard because, and I will, rather than reading it out, I'm going to let you read the quote that was said about the school. So there are two things within that quote that are really important, and the last sentence is perhaps the most important. So although we're below national average, rates of persistent attendance are improving across all groups of pupils. Importantly for us, Gypsy Roma attendance is 80% nationally, and we're at 90%. So even though they're still not up to national average attendance, the inspector said, basically, I can't see anything else that you as a school could be doing to improve the situation. So keep doing what you're doing. Okay. So that was attendance for us. And achievement. You can imagine with that cohort that I've just described to you, historic low attainment, appalling attainment 4 years ago. We are a first school, so most of our pupils have changed in that period of time, but we're still below national in some areas, but we achieved expected standards. And I'll let you again read the bullet points, which are the direct link, a direct lift from our report. Okay, and once again, it is that last statement that meant that the school could achieve expected standard. Pupils with SEN and disabilities, those who are disadvantaged, do make suitable progress through the curriculum. Something I'm now realizing that I should have put in there, and I've already used the phrase, within our inclusion, obviously we achieved expected standard for inclusion. The statement is inclusion is a golden thread running through this school. And that is why I keep coming back to the importance of that. So inclusion, doing the right thing for the disadvantaged in your school is something that Ofsted are looking for. And I would argue that inclusion being the golden thread that runs through Christchurch First School is the reason that the school achieved expected standard in all areas. So in light of this, what do you need to do next? You will need to review and evaluate provision and outcomes in several areas. And there's some important questions for you as PSHE leads, heads, whatever, however you are here, governors, whatever role you're on this call in. You need to satisfy yourself that the reality of PSHE in your school at least reflects the expected standards. Okay. Once you've done that, what tweaks and developments are needed for it to become strong standard or better? Because of course, you know, expected standard is expected standard, and it's a hard standard, but we all want to do even better for our pupils, don't we? Strategic leadership and governance. Are governors well informed and briefed? The feedback from the inspector was that myself and the chair of the trust board were clearly well briefed and well informed, and that was noted. And that's really important, because if governors and the trust board, if you're an academy, are saying different things about the school, or are unable to answer that question, how do you know, then you're on a bit of a hiding to nothing. Curriculum planning, as I say, curriculum has much less of a focus in this new inspection framework, but is inclusion evident across your whole curriculum? And if so, how are you evidencing it? Staff development and training. Are staff clear about the focus of inspection? If you've been a bit surprised tonight about anything I've said, there probably are other people on your staff that are surprised that in the change of focus. And so, you know, have a chat to your SLT. It would be very useful perhaps to look at the new framework and understand the differences. And that evidence and impact, it is all about that. The inspectors are coming into your school to triangulate what they see with what's being said to what the outcome is. And so are staff and governors able to tell a clear, concise and united story of the journey of the school? None of these things are easy, but let me take you back to considering those expected standards for PSHE, which is the focus of this call and the focus of what you're doing as PSHE lead. I do really believe that if you are a Jigsaw school and you are using Jigsaw PSHE in the way that it's intended, which most schools do, you are going to find it easy to evidence expected standard in Ofsted for personal development and well-being. If you want to take it those steps forward, be absolutely sure that you know that inclusion is happening, that participation is being tracked, and that all pupils are benefiting. Questions? I've thrown an awful lot at you in the last few minutes, and your heads are probably whirring, but we will take any questions we can. On the call, the lady who asked, Sarah Bruff, is our programme lead for PSHE, the lady who asked about talking to PSHE leads. So she is there ready to jump in if I can't answer your questions. Bex, have we got?
So just a question about accessing the slides and recording. So in the next couple of days, they will be sent to you. Obviously, you've all registered to be here, so anyone that's registered to come on the call to take part in the webinar will receive both.
So any other questions, just pop them into the chat. If you don't want to ask questions in such a public forum as this, hopefully you know school support email, or pick up the phone and call us. They're on the next slide. In fact, I will put that up now for you. These are the ways you can get hold of us. Go to the website, and that QR code there will give you access to lots of open access webinars available to help you in your role in school. Our philosophy is to make your life easier in order to make your pupils' lives better. Okay, that's what we're here for in Jigsaw. And so if there's anything you can think that we can do to support you as a PSHE lead, SLT, that is going to help you to help your pupils, let us know and we will see what we can do about it.
Just want to say, thank you. So there's a thank you from Samantha, Amy. Sasha Guest has asked, are inspectors likely to ask to watch PSHE lessons?
Again, my experience will be that the senior leaders of your school are a little bit more in control of planning the inspection than they have been in the past. So if you're proud of PSHE in your school, make sure that you're showing off some of your lessons. Inspectors are going to find so much great evidence. They are hungry for things to write down on their inspection, their iPads, against the evidence that they have to collect. And PSHE is such a rich stream for that. They will bite your hand off to go to PSHE lessons. So they might not ask, they might ask, they might not ask. One thing perhaps I haven't emphasized quite as much as I should is the role of pupil voice and parental voice. The inspectors were on the gate both mornings and both evenings. They were in the playground talking to the pupils. They were around about in the lunch hall talking to the pupils. And that's about, if you remember back many slides ago, I underlined the feel. Do pupils feel they are part of the school? Well, the only way they're going to find that is by talking to them. And there was such a lot of pupil voice in our recent inspection.
Thank you, Simon. Got another one here from Stuart Gadazi. Will Ofsted have any interest now in how you intend on implementing the new PSHE guidance?
Interesting question. So we were all about intent, implementation and impact, weren't we? Have I got those right in the last framework? It's not mentioned in the new framework, but it hasn't gone away only in so much as what do you intend your pupils to be like? What do you intend your pupils to be like when they leave your school? What's your intention for, how well-rounded they are? We're not going to get away from intention. The implementation is using Jigsaw or using your chosen PSHE scheme. You've got to make sure that that is of high quality, it's relevant, that come September, your RSHE is all legally compliant and up to date. Jigsaw schools, you'll be right on that. Don't worry about that. But impact, probably the impact stuff is the most important thing. They want to see pupils who are articulate, who are confident, who are nurtured, and they will talk to them and find out if they are. So good question. Brilliant.
Perfect.
Okay, I think you've had long days. I really hope that was useful. From the comments, it appears that it has been. You will get the link to it. Feel free to share it far and wide. If you know colleagues that would benefit from it, once you get the link, get them watching it. We are here to support. As I say, that is our reason for being here. So the more that can watch this and be supported by it, the better. Really importantly, final health check. If you've come away from this feeling overburdened and feeling your job's even less easy to do, then do get in contact with us, because we have lots of support materials to help you through what might feel a maze. But I really hope it's been useful for you. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us this evening, and we will see you in the next webinar. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you, everyone.